What's up, guys? I had a dream last night, and I want to tie it into something about what I've experienced as a hospice caregiver and going to these nursing homes. I did that for 2 years. Had a dream last night that my grandmother passed away, 20 years ago. But I had a dream last night where my grandmother was in the nursing home, and then it was me, my brothers. We got a call from the nurses. We were at our home, and then the nurses were like saying, "Oh, are you the family with Leonella?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's my grandmother." And I could hear my grandmother in the background. She was like yelling, "Get me out of here!" I don't want to be here. And then my brothers were like panicking. We're like, "Okay, we need to go ahead and go pick her up. And then in my mind, I was like, kind of like, I was about to tell my brothers, but I woke up from the dream. I was gonna tell them, I was like, "Look, this is what I'm talking about. Like, we shouldn't be, taking our grandmother to these nursing homes because they're just gonna drug them and just wait for them to die." And so, but I woke up from that dream, and that it reminded me of, like, I need to share the stories that I've experienced. So it started with this one lady. So this one lady, she told me that, um, you know, she was at a nursing home, and what they do, they drug her with all these pills. So sometimes like these caregivers or these nurses, you know they tell them, like, oh, like, they're loud, they're being annoying, so they don't want to deal with you, so they just keep giving you sleeping pills so they could just whatever, and enjoy their day and not be stressed out by you yelling and blah 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 blah. Sometimes these old people, they get annoying. I ain't gonna lie, I get annoyed. But what ends up happening is you keep on giving them these drugs, and they just become like delusional. So that elderly lady, she told me that when she was at the nursing home, that they kept giving her all these drugs, and then she called her son. She says, "Get me out of here! They're trying to kill me." And then in my mind, I was thinking, like, like, that's what they all say. But this like the third time I heard that story. Like, what she was trying to say is not that they're trying to kill me. It's they're basically trying to just give you all these sleeping pills so you could just shut up. And but what happens? It just deteriorates their mind, and eventually, just something happens chemically in their mind where their whole body ends up shutting down. And I end up going on to the next house and do like hospice caregiving. And of course, a lot of these elderly people, I do hospice caregiving, and I just go to nursing homes and care, and just have a combination of two different stories. But through all the situations, um, it's just not a good situation. eh, to have someone else take care of your parents, because they're not going to get that tender, loving care, that the compassion. Um, I was driving, and I picked up this guy, and he told me that he took care of his mother for like 10 years before she passed away. And he said, the doctor told me if I would have took her to a nursing home, that she wouldn't have lived so long. And I was like, I agree with that. And I just kind of want to share that story because whoever's listening to this and you're thinking about sending your parents to a nursing home because you don't want to deal with it, I'm just telling that's what's going on. Like, no, they feel lonely. You know what I mean? I mean, not all places. There may be some high-end nursing homes, but in my job, it just, I try to lift their spirits up. I try to make them feel love, make them feel happy, make them, because they tell me, like, we have kids and they never come see us. And what's the point of having kids? Which is interesting that they say that, but they kind of have a point. So that was just fresh in my mind. I'm about to go work out, and just want to share that because that dream was so real. Like, I really thought, my grandmother was like, she was like, "Get me out of here!" They're trying to kill me, and it reminded me. It's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna title this video, "Don't Send Your Parents to Nursing Homes." All right, peace.